Hello and welcome to Bud's RPG Review, where I give my thoughts on role-playing games, card games and board games. Today's review is 2013's Dead Light, Surviving One Night Outside of Arkham for Call of Cthulhu 7th edition by Chaosium. Dead Light is presented as a 32-page adventure that is set to be run as an encounter-based scenario over the course of a single night or as an interlude to an existing campaign. There'll be spoilers from this point on, so stop here if you want to play this. Dead Light is set in 1920s Arkham. The investigators run into a series of events that threatens them both in the short and possibly in the long term. The scenario takes place as the investigators are driving away from Arkham during a dark and stormy night. The events preceding the first encounter centre around an old retired doctor, Godfrey Webb, and his granddaughter Amelia. It describes Webb as a well-regarded family physician who knew how to keep secrets. He would provide certain unrecorded medical services for a price. Amelia, his last remaining kin, has moved in with him in his retirement to keep him company. We discover that Amelia is a fragile soul who has her own mental issues. Amelia, having been provided with a generous allowance, has drawn the jealous eye of Mary Laker, a waitress at the Orchard Run vacuum oil station. Mary is determined to get herself out of her own downtrodden life, and to do so she has enlisted the help of her feckless boyfriend Clem Taylor to rob the Webb's house. The plan was for it to happen under the cover of this evening's stormy conditions. Unfortunately, as with all Call of Cthulhu adventures, things went wrong for the would-be robbers. Clem, with his accomplice Billy Esterhouse, both half-drunk for courage, have broken into Dr. Webb's house to find him and Amelia at home. Unfortunately for the hapless robbers, the Webbs fought back. Clem's shotgun discharged and seriously wounded Dr. Webb, and Amelia was knocked unconscious. Clem then demanded money from the bleeding Dr. Webb. Webb pointed towards an archaic-looking metal coffer above the hearth. Clem hurriedly opened the wax-sealed coffer and released a horror called the Dead Light from its slumber. Dead Light is described as looking like a 2-metre-long spill of silvery white ink on reality that sickens and attracts all who gaze upon it. It radiates a deathly cold light that pulses and flares erratically around intelligent life. It paralyses the weak-willed so it can feast upon them. All it leaves in its wake is a pile of fine dust. We pick up the scenario with the investigators driving along the road from Arkham, when suddenly the road is blocked by a pale figure of a woman soaked by the driving rain. This is Amelia around 2 hours after the event of the Dead Light being released. Assuming the investigators stop to help her, she's battered, bruised and slightly delusional. All she can murmur is "grandfather" and "the light." The adventurers are assumed to take pity upon Amelia and drive on to the nearest truck stop, the aforementioned Orchard Run vacuum oil station. Here the investigators encounter other refugees from the storm, including a local farmer whose truck is blocking the road, having skidded on mud driven up by the storm. The scenario then takes a jump to Dr. Webb's house in Orchard Wood. We are then given a map and a description of Green Apple Acre Cottage, where the investigators are provided with evidence they need to piece together to figure out what's happened. We then jump to note how to maintain suspense and drive the action on, which finishes on how to reach a conclusion to the night's events. The final section has nicely detailed and illustrated NPCs and the stats for the Dead Light itself. We also have a section on converting this to older editions of Call of Cthulhu, which is a nice touch. In conclusion, this scenario has some good and bad points. My first niggle is the cover. If this is supposed to be the Dead Light, then it is nothing like the description, even if it is a great piece of artwork. My second niggle is that the scenario has the potential to be a bit too deadly, although I find that this is generally an issue with these kind of survival horror scenarios. I could see a TPK in the hands of an inexperienced keeper. My third niggle is that there are too many lurching leaps between the set pieces. When the investigators meet Amelia on the road, she can literally say two things. We then leap to investigating Dr. Webb's house with nothing explained as to how this leap was made. Also, the ending is poor. There's no great setup and final confrontation that the scenario frankly deserves. They hint that smart investigators could jury-rig the generator in the doctor's basement to electrocute the Dead Light, but that doesn't seem a realistic idea. Also, the lack of pre-gen characters is not only disappointing but surprising. As for the score, I feel that this scenario would have been better presented amongst an anthology rather than made to stand on its own merits. That being said, the book is nicely presented and I could see it being an enjoyable evening with the right keeper. Also, I found the explanation of what the Dead Light was used for to be fascinatingly creepy. I give this a decent 7.5 out of 10. If you enjoyed this review, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Also, don't forget to check out my other reviews. Bud out.